How's it going, folks? Stu here. It's too hot. We're just going to cut to it. I'm dying. I'm sweating here. Apparently, I thought it was a good idea to wait until, I don't know, one of the hottest days of the year to shoot this video, and I'm regretting it now. So you're just going to have to deal with me getting progressively more sweaty as this video goes on. Hope that's fine. But recently, you might know that there was a new Marvel film, so I don't know if that slipped past any of you. So why don't we have a little chat about that? I say that as if this is a two-way street. It isn't. You're just going to have to sit and listen to what I got to say. If you're in the UK like me, heaven forbid how hot it is right now, grab yourself a tinny, like I have. Ice cold Stella, you can't beat it. Not even for drinking, just going to hold it over my head like that. That's nice. Should we talk about Black Widow? So this one is, as you can probably guess, Black Widow's standalone film. Wow. And truth be told, I've never really been too interested in the Black Widow character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, at least. I always just kind of felt like she was a bit of a weird side character that just happened to be thrown into the mix. So when they announced the Black Widow film, obviously I was like, you know what? I'm interested. Let's see what they can do with it. And I gotta say, it was weird. I did enjoy my time with Black Widow, but I also did find it kind of frustrating in many areas that I was hoping I wouldn't find it frustrating in. But we'll get into that stuff in a bit. We'll start with the good stuff. Why not start with the positives? Obviously, Scarlett Johansson's good as this character. We knew it, because she was in a bunch of films as this character already. But this is definitely, I think, the best I've seen her as that character, and I think obviously that comes down to the fact that we're seeing a whole film for her, not just popping up in someone else's film. But they've also stacked this film with a really great cast around her as well, which I think is absolutely one of the biggest things this film has going for her. They cast Florence Pugh as her long-lost sister in the film, and Florence Pugh's amazing. We already knew that, but she kind of does just fit right in here, and she seems to be having a lot of fun with the character. She's definitely the source of a lot of the humor in the film, in that really engaging kind of sisterly way, the kind of bickering between them. It's fun to watch, and she's got a great chemistry with Scarlett Johansson. It is always interesting seeing someone like Florence Pugh thrown into something as huge as a Marvel Cinematic Universe, just seeing the responses to that from fans and stuff, acting like this is some kind of breakout role for her. It isn't. She was nominated for a fucking Oscar a while back. I saw someone else somewhere refer to her role in Black Widow as the Punaissance, which doesn't make any sense because she's not gone anywhere. This isn't a Punaissance. This is just Pewing. But also in the film, we've got Rachel Weisz and David Harbour, who are the parents, in quotation marks. I found them surprisingly underutilized because they are them. that they are Rachel Weisz and David Harbour, and so it's always a surprise when you put people like that in your film that you don't just always put them in front of the camera. But I also kind of weirdly quite enjoyed the soundtrack to this one. The score on this, which is a weird thing to say about a Marvel film, I think, because they tend to have somewhat generic soundtracks. But I kind of found myself thinking, like, that's cool. I like what I'm hearing, which isn't always something I hear from Marvel films. So that felt like it was worth bringing up. And I was also entertained on the whole by this film. I was never bored, and I didn't find it to drag at any point. So I think pacing-wise, and just in terms of purely entertaining you as a Marvel film, I guess, should. I think Kate Shortland, who directed this one, did a pretty good job on that front. But I also found it to be disappointingly kind of paint by numbers in that respect, which I guess in its own way is perhaps a naive thing to expect from a Marvel film at this point. You know, it's a Disney film, but I also kind of don't really agree with that sentiment. I mean, particularly in the last however many years with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of the things that's been so engaging about it is its willingness to sort of give directors a little bit more of a voice within this, you know, very kind of controlled franchise environment. But it's proved in itself that audiences are more interested in sort of creative, more interesting avenues through these characters, right? Which is exactly what makes it all the more disappointing that Black Widow kind of chooses not really to do any of that. All of the big superhero-y bits just feel like stuff we've already seen in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, because we have. Felt a lot like kind of Winter Soldier era Marvel Cinematic Universe, which would have made a lot more sense if this film came out then, but it didn't. It came out now. We kind of moved past that. And I think also, like, her backstory, I don't know much about her backstory from the comics because I haven't read the comics that she's in. But, you know, from the little bits it's been teasing us throughout the films she's appeared in the MCU up to this point, you know, there's something to her backstory. It's interesting, it's mysterious, but it's also a different backstory to all the other Avengers and stuff, right? This idea of a Russian kind of sleeper spy or whatever, it feels ripe for a lot of really interesting drama and just different locations and aspects that we haven't seen in the MCU at this point. And when things kick off in this film, you know, it's got a great sort of opening 20 minutes, I think, and it's got a really good title sequence where it sort of really starts to lean into those things. But as it goes on, it just sort of, it doesn't really ditch all that. It's always there, but it just never really goes into it in a way which I think would have been much more fascinating and interesting for this character. I'm interested in seeing what happened when she was growing up with all the Russian sleeper cell stuff, because it's quite dark. And the film, like I said, just sort of throws it in a title sequence and then is like, we'll show you what she was doing after Civil War. It's kind of annoying. Like, I could have guessed what she was doing after Civil War. Just doing all the same shit she's been doing in the other films. Oh, who'd have thunk? She did do that, but with some different faces. I haven't even talked about the accents. Jesus, this is gonna be a long video. I didn't want it to be this long. But I have to at least address Ray Winstone's Russian accent. What the fuck was going on there? It's almost comical how quickly Ray Winstone's accent just dropped the ball. I don't mean to sound this cruel, but couldn't you cast anyone else? I was also kind of really unsatisfied by just the way the narrative unfolds in a kind of protagonist-antagonist manner, right? Taskmaster don't do shit in this film. And they make a point to bring up the fact that Taskmaster can sort of mimic people's abilities, so it's always an evenly matched fight. But I never really felt that. Like, we didn't really see that. They almost kind of think, like, why not just not have that character? Why not just take Taskmaster out of this film? I guess if you did that, you'd have a much less sort of, I guess, narratively twisty-turny interesting film, and you'd be left with the fact that you are literally just watching the same film we've seen a lot in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But like, I don't need Taskmaster in this film. See you later, mate. Shut the door on your way out. So yeah, ultimately, Black Widow was a bit of a weird one. I did enjoy my time with it, but I don't think it was really as interesting or exciting as maybe I'd kind of hoped to have seen, given that it is a character's standalone film after however many years of wanting to see this character's standalone film. But if nothing else, it's put Florence Pugh into the cinematic universe, which is always a good thing in my book. So I'm not sure I could really stand here and give this film too much of a hard time if its sole purpose was to do that. So you pass on that front. But what about you guys? Have you caught Black Widow yet? Were you excited to see it? Were you a big fan of the Black Widow character beforehand? Or were you a little bit like me, just interested and intrigued to see what they could do with it? And did it end up satisfying any of those needs, or did it disappoint you? Let me know whatever you thought about it in the comments down below. We'll have a little chat. And of course, if you did enjoy this video and you want to see me talk about more shit, go ahead and click subscribe. Can't promise you won't regret it, but I hope you don't. I'll see you guys soon for some more videos on some more films that are coming out. But right now, all I can actually think about is the fact that I have literal sweat dripping down my legs. That was probably too much information, wasn't it? Probably too much.